Welcome and thank you for clicking on my video. Really appreciate that. And I just wanted to let you know that this week, going into Monday, we are going to be approaching a moment of truth. Really, last week, we were able to see how that selling can really start to come in, how we can get that waterfall effect in selling down once we head to these higher levels. But right now, we are approaching a moment of truth. Will this MACD on the 2-hour chart for the SPY be able to curl up? We're just noticing pulling back here that every time we approach this center line, we're able to curl up in positive territory. So throughout these pullbacks, we just noticed we were able to curl back up, and see more positivity. Can we see that going into this week? That's why we're going to need some ranges. We're going to need all that good stuff and some technical analysis for the SPY, Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta today. And let's get into it. Now, if you were following this channel last week, if you were subscribed, you knew that we were telling you that this looked like it could be some kind of double top. Looking at the other stocks, it looked like they were kind of out of steam, and it looked like there was going to be some kind of drop off. And guess what? That got pretty dramatic as we heard a lot of Fed speakers talking about no rate cuts coming. And I think we're going to get more information about that this week because we have FOMC minutes, we have CPI, so we still need to be trading like water out there. And the best thing we can give you to trade like water, make sure we're taking profit, going back and forth, being adaptable in this market will really be good. So we need some ranges to help us out for the entire week. In the SPY, the upside range for the week, right? So for the close on Friday, the whole options market has priced in a move higher of 528.74 to the upside, and then they priced to the downside. This is all that expected to the downside is 508.12. Okay, so these are going to be areas we want to pay attention if we get excited and outside of them early on in the week, right? We want to pay attention to that, but this is a very big move. So I suspect that this big move will most likely be coming once we get CPI data or FOMC minutes, or we could see, CPI send us up and FOMC minutes take us down. So let's just pay attention and trade like water out there. The daily expected moves for Monday are actually going to be 522.89 to the upside and 513.97. But I just really want you to see how these are starting to get bigger, right? These moves are starting to get bigger. That means the volatility is being expected by the market at this point, and we could see some big price fluctuation. So I wanted to give a possible way we could go up. Okay, if this wants to curl up on the MACD here, positive territory. We kind of went through that in the beginning. Every single time we had the potential to break down, right? We got the potential to break down, breaking through this level here. This actually lines up pretty well with the 20, and we closed below the 20 at this point for the SPY, or at the 20 at this point, right? Testing it at that point. We see that curl up on the MACD around that center line. So that's what we like to do in the market. On the 2-hour, I really like this chart. We see that pull down into the center line, and then we get that to curl up and go positive, which means more positive price action can come because you are in a positive trend. So the only thing we want to pay attention to this week is if we get some move outside of this, do we set up another point of divergence, giving us a triple divergence close to negative territory? We're going to be watching all this stuff live, so make sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you can join us every single morning as we watch the stock market together every single morning. So this week, pay attention because we may even go live a few times throughout the week for CPI and maybe even FOMC minutes. How would this break down? Most likely we're going to see some of that positivity continue. I just wanted to point that out. But if we get excited early on in the day, or maybe going on into Tuesday, we come up into this area, we can set up that point of divergence. So I really think if this move higher comes, we just have to see if we're starting to lose this low or if we're creating that right shoulder to give us that left head and right shoulder to get that good structure up. I'm not saying we can't continue upward. I'm just saying that the macro side looks very ugly. So I want to pay attention to points where we can see that weakness come in, and we got one of those points right here. A lot of people were watching live as I was taking some trades, and they were able to find some good setups, and people were able to make money. That's very, very good. I hope we're overall continuing to learn, but at this moment, don't get too bullish, don't get too bearish in a market like this. If this curls up into positive territory, we will see a positive move, but will that fade? So that's what we're going to be paying attention to this week for the SPY. As we go into the Qs, first of all, I just wanted to give you the weekly ranges. And look, I have to zoom out now to give you those weekly ranges. Okay, 451.33 to the upside, and you have 429.61 to the downside. So similar thing going on here, right? We have some kind of head and shoulders that could form. We have the left, we have the head. If we come up to this area and get that to do this, well, we could get a right shoulder and head higher. But will that get us outside of this range? And then we see that fade. So what we want to pay attention to here is if we break through this high, do we create some kind of divergence at this level? We pay attention to 30-minute charts live as well, and they really help us out. I really like my 30-minute charts and my 2 hours. You guys know that. But you can notice here, curl up, positive territory. What happens when we go positive? Well, you see that positivity come in. So we have the opportunity to go positive at this point, but I just wanted to show you guys with these red bars, I want you to be aware how that selling can really really pile on fast. So you want to be trading like water out there. Look at this bar. It just came straight down, right? And we were able to use daily ranges and things like that, saying it should pop up because it's outside of its weekly. And we were able to call that bounce on Friday. Now, one thing that would happen here is you got to pay attention to these daily ranges for Monday. 445.16 to the upside, and we have 435.78 to the downside. So still some bigger ranges, even for the Qs, bigger ranges, and we have that yield holding higher. So the Q's not necessarily reacting to that yield going higher at this point. Should be probably coming down, but we're going higher. So what would happen is if we actually see an explosive move early on in the day, we can see that fade back down, maybe curl out and get some kind of right shoulder. If we get that good news, continue because positive territory. But if we get this to bounce up like this and it just curls right back down and we get some bad news, well, we're going to be very close to negative territory. So this week is going to be very important to be paying attention to the data that's coming out. CPI is going to be very important. We get PPI. We have a ton of data. So very good to tune into our live show every single morning. Apple, I really wanted to go into the 30-minute here, just showing that divergence. We caught that. We got a strong move. We take our profit, and we're out of there because we noticed there was a 15-minute divergence here, and we see that drop off. So we were able to trade like water throughout all this. Now you have to pay attention because what if we're creating some kind of head and shoulders in here to head down, and we're in negative territory? So we can see positivity come in for Apple if we get this 30-minute to curl up. Now, if this does curl up into positive territory, going to want to pay attention to my weekly ranges for Apple for this week. Okay, so down in the description, you can actually join the Patreon and you'll get the ranges, which we're putting out after this video for each stock that we're covering on this channel, plus Microsoft and Google. And we're going to be adding one more in the near future. But I just wanted to show you how we're in negative territory. We can see this cross down. If we start to lose this level, well, maybe then we do want to look at a 2-hour, see if this can curl down and create some kind of divergence. So if we see negativity come in for Apple, really pay attention if this divergence forms, right? Another point of divergence here, and then we start to pop up. But as this does roll down, these divergences aren't very sturdy for Apple on the 2-hour. So if we see some downward pressure, we could just keep flagging out and heading lower. Remember, Apple's been in a negative trend for quite some time, right? We got one pop up here into positive territory, but it's been negative for a long time and it can remain there. It's going to be very, very difficult to really buy this thing back up. And the bad part is if you're able to get it up, we still have this zone that we just keep seeing sell-offs from, right? We gap below it, we use it as some resistance, head lower, we gap towards it, head lower. You bounce up to it, you head lower. So this area here, you really have to take this whole zone back to be comfortable with Apple in a longer term trade. And I just wanted to show you how if that 2-hour just rolls over into negative territory, we could actually see a drop that gets us actually oversold. You notice down here, we're not able to get oversold at this point. So what if we see a rapid move down? If you see that rapid move down, we may pay attention to some kind of divergence around those weekly ranges, see if that forms something there. So important to join those live videos. Make sure when you come in, you like, you subscribe, do all that good stuff because we're here every single morning for you. Tesla, there is a little bit different take here, okay? So we want to pay attention. Remember, these aren't weekly ranges. These are just points we're paying attention to. We've really used this 180.92 for some rejections, for some support in the past, and we've gapped below this level, so we know it's important. So we just wanted to mark it off for you. Notice it lines up with this liquidity in here, these highs in here. So the reason that Tesla could see a bounce is 30-minute divergence. You have 30-minute divergence down here on the MACD and the RSI at the same time, pretty good divergence. So we could be seeing an upward move. And I would just pay attention this week to this right here. If we create some kind of divergence at 180 with this level and that confirms, it could just mean, hey, this 2-hour is going to roll up and then roll right back down. So if this 2-hour is able to roll up, 30-minute divergences like to do that. So Tesla could see a positive move here with this divergence down here on the 30 minutes, see that 2-hour curl up for some time. But does that last by end of week? That's what we're really going to be paying attention to live. Looks like Tesla does have some kind of positive move, but we wanted to point out what we were talking about before it even happened, right? We were talking about this right here. We were like, if this wanted to break down, it most likely would go left. We would test somewhere down in here, somewhere down at this low down here, and then we would get some kind of left head and right shoulder. So very well, right now, you do have structure to head lower in this area with this right shoulder. You just need to break through a little bit hard, a little bit more clean. Right now, you're seeing that happen. So actually the probability here is that Tesla is going to drop off. I just want you to be aware of the 30-minute divergence because we're trading like water. Even though you believe this should go down, well, the momentum's telling you if it curls up on that 30-minute, we could see a positive move. If you see this, it hasn't crossed yet, and you want to see if that goes positive, but we'll be talking about this if there is some kind of trade setup, and we'll probably be posting that to Patreon. Amazon, this is one that's telling me the momentum is dying out and we most likely will see some selling price. So you have a little bit of a mixed bag. So I'm paying attention to weekly ranges and things like that this week very, very diligently, right? Because you have stocks like Amazon here going up to higher levels that's actually giving you those 30-minute divergence right now. And those are actually confirmed. You have flagging, you could head lower. So some stocks are saying they want to head higher, some are saying they want to head lower, and that's why we're going to have to be, trading like water out there. We're going to have to be willing to flip the script. You notice these 2 hours, we're not very close to negative territory on this one, but up here, you just have to say on the daily scale, this momentum is really starting to die out. Now, we could get some kind of parabolic move, right? We're going to pay attention to our weeklies and things like that this week if we see an upside move here. Remember, we talked about manipulation, and this is one stock that the institutions and the big boys, the market makers, they might still be in this at this point. So maybe they do want to push it higher, kind of pat their wallets a little bit and then see that ripped away once they convince a bunch of retail traders to get in. So this is just something I'd pay attention to. It really looks like the momentum has been dying out in Amazon, and you notice because it's not really getting a good move higher, it's just kind of doing this all the way up, which is causing us to spread out the Bollinger Bands at this point, but we could head down to this level down here, 172.30, something to pay attention to. So see if this daily is able to roll back down, but maybe we do see some kind of sell-off with Amazon, we get another pop before earnings, and then that breaks down further. That's something we'll pay attention to, but earnings around the corner. Remember, we don't like trading around earnings. We don't know what they're going to report. We just want to react to the price action. NVIDIA, this is a big guy. This is a big guy, right? So we want to pay attention to it. On the daily scale, I just wanted to point out, you're still right at that 20 and the 5-day moving average. Now, this could be a retest. We could head lower and then see some kind of reaction. Remember, this level of 841.46 is where I marked it off at. And I think that's going to be a very good level to pay attention to. If we break that, look for the 50, maybe look for those weekly ranges and things like that. But if you're paying attention to a 2 hour or anything like that, you can notice most of the time when we go towards the center line and we curl up positive territory, I think throughout this entire run, what do we see? We see big positivity from NVIDIA. So if NVIDIA is just able to curl up on this 2 hour and go to positive territory down here on the MACD, we most likely are going to see another explosive move. Now, is that just going to test the top of this structure here and then we see that fail? Very well could happen, but we'll just pay attention to this live. See if we're seeing maybe some kind of double top in this area or something like that, some kind of 2 hour divergence that leads you really, really close to negative territory. That would tell you, hey, NVIDIA has a good chance to flip from a positive trend into a fully negative trend at this point. The 2 hour, until it's able to remain down in negative territory for a couple crossings, that's when I'll be convinced this is over. But as of right now, it's looking like it could go either way this week, and that's why we have to pay attention to data. So if NVIDIA is going to see weakness early on in the week, well, we can pay attention to that 841.46 level. What if we break down, create some kind of little divergence here, and then we see that pop? Overall, it's just you need a reason to take a trade here. The 2 hour curling up at least, right? Maybe some kind of divergence to get into a trade. But as of right now, this is just like trickling up towards the center line. So if this MACD just rolls back down once it gets towards that center line, we could see that break further down. Wanted to show you the structure to head up. Most likely we react to something like this level, see that back off, and then we start to head higher after we create some kind of head and shoulders for NVIDIA. So there is still a way up. There is a way down. This is still a very bullish market at this point. So we have to pay attention to potential upside while also paying attention to the times where data drops are happening around the time where momentum is dying out to the upside. That is really going to help us out going forward. AMD, similar thing, right? This thing was able to break down, and we were overall paying attention to, this low down here, 162.32 could be important this week. So I want to pay attention to my weekly ranges for AMD, which we give out on Patreon. This could just roll back down, and then we create some kind of divergence down here on the MACD, some kind of little divergence in order for us to actually, gain a position here. Just to show the 2 hour, this thing's showing you divergence as well. So if this divergence is able to cross, maybe AMD actually gets some kind of squeeze, maybe some kind of big momentum shift. So if AMD is able to build up to this area, carve it out, we could get a head and shoulders and see AMD make a big move upward. Remember what I'm telling you for this SPY and the Qs. I do believe there's going to be some kind of market manipulation continuing forward, and we could actually see new all-time highs in the Qs, new all-time high in the SPY. We could see big moves from NVIDIA and AMD and all of these stocks that bait everyone in, and then it ends up being a big bull trap, and maybe earnings is the thing that is going to rip that away. But since earnings is a little bit further down, we're going to pay attention to CPI and the FOMC minutes and PPI. There's a bunch of data. Meta, this looks like it could have an explosive move. I just want to point that out. You're curling up on a daily MACD. Now you're getting to overbought territory already. So you're curling up on this daily MACD, but what if that just rejects from this level at this point? So that's something I'm paying attention to, seeing if there's some kind of rejection early on, but does that just hold up at the weekly? Do we see some kind of big move up and see that fade? That's what I'm going to be paying attention to Meta. Anywhere up here is a good area for Meta to sell off, but right now we can pay attention to those weekly moves. They've really been helping us out with Meta, right, giving us that trade down here. When it touched that weekly move early, boom, we see that positivity come in. Now we come down to that weekly move again, boom. Then we see us go up to the weekly here. We got a lot of trades going on with Meta live, so join us back here in the morning for that live. But I just wanted to point out we got a little bit tight on this Bollinger Band, so an explosive move is coming right now. It looks like that move is to the upside, seeing a green bar down here on the histogram for the MACD. So you'd have to say it really looks like positivity is coming for Meta, but will that be able to last with some big data drops this week? HYG, the high yield growth, the smart money, right? Getting this double top, giving us that big divergence across the way here, able to go negative at this point. Now we need to break through this level of 76.57 to really be convinced of that downside. But I just want to show you the difference between HYG and the stock market. And you can zoom out and really go, what's the difference between HYG and the stock market? Well, the stock market's up in this area right now, and HYG hasn't been doing much, right? It's actually been coming back down. So it tells you that the market is most likely getting way too excited way too early. They're banking on rate cuts and that being good news, but we know that rate cuts are going to be a bad thing for the market, and most likely something is broken. Most likely we have some kind of banking crisis or some kind of geopolitical event. So we have to pay attention to this difference at this point because it's now more significant. So you notice this is significant because the stock market is still holding higher. So we just want to pay attention to this going forward. The smart money selling off while the dumb money is getting back in. And that's why we want to pay attention to volatility, right? Volatility was able to close above the 200. We had that 85% chance for a green day in the market. We already got that. So now volatility can come in again, okay? So we're in positive territory. That's one check. We're above the 200. That's two checks. Our next crash indicator would be if the 50 can hold above the 200. Once that does cross, that is a crash signal. And if it can hold up there, then you're most likely experiencing that crash in real time. So something I'm paying attention to, the 2 hour, starting to kind of just like coil up in this area, but I believe that might actually drop off early on in the week. What if we drop off and then we see some kind of spike in volatility? I think that's possible. And if I go into a shorter time frame, you know, the 30-minute looks like it's still in positive territory. So maybe we do see some downward price action on Monday. And that's why it's important we talk about this stuff live while the price action is actually happening. Right now, we just talk about the ideas during the actual market hours in the morning. We can actually see those ideas come to fruition and find entries into certain trades. And then we post those to Patreon when they look like very good setups. I don't want to give you some average looking setups. I want to look at ones that look highly probable. And those are the ones that I'm putting out on Patreon. And we even put out a video. That way we can talk about those setups too. But right now, if volatility wanted to spike up, well, what if we just see some kind of divergence right before CPI? Maybe CPI is actually good news for the market and we see that drop off. So we're going to be paying attention to volatility during our live video because we could set up a divergence on the 30-minute that causes stocks to drop back down, right? But then after that, what if CPI is actually good news while everyone thinks it's going to burn down? You know, hey, it's hitting the weekly range, it's hitting my daily range, it's doing all these things, and you can be kind of contrarian, but really you're just trading based off the probabilities. And that's a very, very good thing. And trading like water, taking profit early while volatility is higher is a good thing because we're going to see bigger swings in the market. And that's what the weekly range is telling you by spreading out. So the main takeaway here is we could see ways up in some stocks, we can see ways down in some stocks. So we have to be still trading like water. Volatility is higher. So we're going to see some bigger swings which is a good thing for a tactical trader. And that's what we're trying to be on this channel. So if you want to learn about a lot of these things, you can go down in the link in the description and take the course, because it'll teach you in depth about these indicators, how to trade around them. It'll give you a bear market strategy, because I believe a bear market is coming very, very soon. And that's why it's very good to gain these skills before it even happens. You can make money on the way up. We can make money on the way down, as long as we're trading like water out there. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you for liking, subscribing, doing all that good stuff. My Patreon members, thank you guys so much for joining my Patreon. And I just hope you guys have a great, great week trading. And I hope you have all the luck in the world trading this week, and a great night.